Today, we hang out with Harry van der Zee, an inspirational Dutch homeopathic physician since 1987. He is also an international teacher, and he was the editor-in-chief of the international journal Homeopathic Links from 1996 until 2018. He is also the chairperson of the Amma Resonance Healing Foundation and the author of Miasms in Labor and Homeopathy for Birth Trauma, which you can purchase at www.homeolinks.nl. In today's episode, Harry will share with us the groundbreaking work that Amma Resonance Healing Foundation has been doing in Africa by using the source remedies and audio resonances created by homeopath Peter Chappell. Harry and Peter jointly published the book Homeopathy for Disease, a book on how to treat epidemics, trauma, and chronic diseases. You can volunteer to help out at the Amma Resonance Healing Foundation, or you can donate to this incredible cause by visiting www.arhf.com. You can also find their documentary on this website, which I really implore you to watch, and send a copy of this to all your friends and family because the testimonials are absolutely amazing. There's also loads of free articles and resources that you can download from their website. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the Homeopathy Hangout, where we discuss all things homeopathy from around the world. And now my mum and your host, Eugenie Kruger.
Hello, homies, and a very warm welcome to Homeopathy Hangout. Today, we have the privilege of hanging out with the absolutely lovely Harry van der Zee, all the way in Holland. Welcome to the show, Harry.
Thank you so much, Eugenie, for having me here.
It's a pleasure. And I probably ended up saying your surname wrong in the end anyway. Can you say it in Dutch? Can you say it? Because it sounds so beautiful.
You did it pretty good, actually, but it's van der Zee.
Van der Zee. And like you said, from the sea. Beautiful.
And that's what it means. Yeah. De la mar, or whatever language you use. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Now, Harry, I start off my podcast asking everybody the same question, and I would love to hear your answer. How did you discover homeopathy?
I'll try to keep it short. I studied medicine with the idea that there's more possible for humanity than the way we live our lives now. So my impulse came more from the idea that something like awakening to truth or something called enlightenment is possible. I would want that for myself. I would want that for you and everyone else. I had no idea what kind of form that could take in a professional life, and I just thought, let me study medicine. During the medical studies, I also followed a course in psychosynthesis and a medical applied form of that, what they called medical synthesis. Just like, okay, if I want to make myself available to others, perhaps I look a little bit inside first and learn more about this one here. And then after that, I just opened a practice, and basically I was just meeting people and looking with them what was actually the matter. So I had no treatment, nothing to offer, and nevertheless people would come. But at some point after doing that for about a year, it felt like regularly with someone, I would come to like a beautiful place where I would say there's some kind of silence. You come to a point of silence, like it's been seen now here. We now know what it is. But then I would love to have a tool to work with that, to help someone a bit further than that. And I knew about homeopathy. It was free from side effects and natural, beautiful. But all I knew was like, okay, when you have it in your left ear, you give that. And when there's something in your right ear, you give that. And that didn't really touch me yet in the heart, I would say. So being aware, like I'd love to have a tool, I thought, well, what to do. So what I did, I don't know how I came to the idea, but I called a monastery and asked them, can I stay with you guys for a while? I only need a room. I need nothing, no food, no nothing. I just want to be on myself. And what I brought was paper and a pen to write and paint to kind of paint out. And somehow I felt dreams would be helpful here. And that's actually what happened. Every night I would have like 5-6 dreams, and very vivid, and I would kind of scribble them down in the dark, and then the next day work them out and paint them out. And then the last night I was there, probably like 10 days or something. The last night I was there, I said, this night I want to dream about a direction. And I got a series of dreams that became more and more graphic, you could say, very direct. One of the more direct ones was already like following the footsteps in the sand of someone I knew who was a homeopathic doctor. And then there was a rainforest. I'd never been in the tropics before, but there was this beautiful rainforest. And out of it came fireworks, all sorts of colors coming up, like, wow, amazing. And then a big number 1 came up, white, if I remember correctly, big, huge number 1. And then below it, it said homeopathy. And so it was like, wow, what is this? So I then looked up the one that I dreamt about, that I would follow the footsteps. And I asked that one, like, tell me a bit about homeopathy, because there must be something that I don't know about it, because until now it hasn't touched my heart. But this is very clear sign to really look into it. And then I found out about the more recent developments in homeopathy, where you would look at the core of the case and try to find what it, and I realized, well, that's what I've been doing. And now there's a tool that could match with this. So that's how I got to it.
That is truly one of the best intro to homeopathy stories I've ever heard. That's absolutely beautiful. You were so guided. And where did you go and study? How did you go and study homeopathy then? Because you were already a medical doctor, right? So did you just have to do some extra
I was
modules?
a medical doctor, yeah. So I asked, I think it was on a Friday. So I asked this colleague, I asked like how to go about this. And she said, well, there's a training of 3 years, but considering what you do, read this book over the weekend and you start on Monday. So what I would do is do my regular meeting with someone, but then add in some of the more technicalities of homeopathic case taking. So I broadened the case taking, and then she supervised me in selecting remedies. And at the same time, I started the training for a homeopathic doctor in Holland, which was 3 years, and just followed anything that was in the neighborhood. I just went to every course I could go and picked it up. Learned a lot from just being in a practice. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that has been, and you qualified in 1987. So that's many incredible years of homeopathic service that you've got behind you.
Yeah. Well, basically, my private practice stopped, I thought, for 2 years in 2008. I found myself in that rainforest that I dreamt about. And I never planned any of that. It just kind of emerged like that. But then starting the work in Africa was taking on so much that I felt like I would really want to give this a chance. So I told my wife, are you okay with this? That I stopped my practice for 2 years. And so that was 2008. And so I'm still in my second year of that.
So maybe this is the work with HRHF that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Can you maybe tell our listeners a little bit about that? Because when I first heard about Peter Chappell and his remedies, the PC remedies, and then I watched that documentary that you sent me, which we'll have to link that in the show notes because it's almost too good to be true. My husband and my kids watched that documentary as well. It's mind-blowing stuff. So tell our listeners a little bit about HRHF, what it is and how it came about.
Yeah, it came about basically by Peter Chappell going to Africa. And I knew Peter we had what we called something like a teachers group. There was a kind of international teachers group of some people from India and from England and Europe. And we came together once a year. So I knew him from that. And at some point, he sent me a message like, I'm in Ethiopia and anyone wants to join me, please do. And at some point, this is what I'm seeing with AIDS. He took 70 cases, took them together as if one person. Because what he said is, I'm treating people individually. I get like 70, 80% result, but there are like 25 million people infected, hardly any homeopath in Africa. So I need something very straightforward. I need something genus epidemicus and just one single remedy. So based on that symptom totality, he asked several colleagues amongst myself to look at it, and nothing came out of that. There wasn't one single remedy that seemed to cover it. And then somehow, I would say Grace whispered in his ear probably, he had been doing a kind of shamanic training in the past in England and had done shamanic journeys also. And through them, had come into contact with what he called like a benign, intelligent being, not embodied, but some kind of intelligence that he was able to connect with. And the idea came up like, okay, I know the symptom totality. I know the genus epidemicus. All I need is a simillimum for it. And he just kind of asked, can you put it in this bottle, please? Basically, this is very short for that. And so after doing that, he started to treat cases. And Corey Hewat and I, we were both editing Homeopathic Links. So at some point, he also approached us with an article in which he kind of shared the first results. And we felt, well, anyone who is doing this, going into the slums of Addis Ababa, treating cases, there may be no scientific merit for it at all. But someone like that needs to be heard. So we published those first results, which were very promising, but still on the basis for myself, like, okay, symptoms improved, nice. But I'm interested in more than symptoms improved. And then at some point, there was a conference in Holland where Peter was also presenting his cases. Again, nice, beautiful results. But there was another homeopath who had been treating a patient who was kind of suicidally depressed, to the point like, well, if you don't find a remedy for me, I'm just going to end my life. I mean, that kind of pressure on you as a homeopath is something, right? And so he had been taking the case, he had been looking for remedies, and nothing worked. And the guy was HIV positive. This was in the States. And so he thought, well, if I can't treat his depression, perhaps I can do something for his HIV. Now, the depression of the man was basically, if you make it very short, I can't imagine anyone ever loving me. I'd better just end my life. And so the guy got this remedy that Peter had called PC1. He took it, and the response was on video, several follow-ups. And this response just blew my mind, because this man had a total awakening, a total transformation, where in tears he was telling how much full of love he was. He loved everything, anything. So someone who was feeling like there's never enough love for me in the world was now having enough for everyone. And to me, this was like an instant moment, like a flash, like HIV/AIDS related to sex, to relationships that lack love, that lack care, that lack respect. That's where you infect the other. So HIV/AIDS is a condition that has to do with the ability of us to love. And if this is being touched by this remedy in this case, you could say like he was like a nosode, and like you have a tuberculinum or a metarium. This man's individual case was so similar to the epidemic of HIV/AIDS that it had this huge effect. So this, I felt like, stop the conference, we make a big circle and we sit, what is this? But the conference just went on the way it went. But I went to Peter and I said, Peter, is there a place in Africa where you've been long enough that I can go and kind of check the results, see how they're doing, have my own experience? And that's how, together with Corey Hiwat, we ended up in Malawi, saw some 60 cases, treated some new ones as well. And I remember sitting next to her and saying, like, it's easier to treat HIV/AIDS here than a running nose in Holland, you know? Were just stunning results. So having seen those results, then I told Peter, well, I'm willing to help you kind of move this forward a bit. So I started designing like a research protocol, involved some people knowledgeable about those kind of things. Went to Africa, went to universities, to ministers of health, I don't know what. And that's how it started. And at some point we founded the foundation to kind of give it a form. Yeah.
It's so amazing. And just when you watch that documentary of, all the people that you go and meet, the different communities that you go and meet to meet with the leaders, and you're training people up along the way as well, like empowering the local communities to help their own members as well. Hey.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I started with what you could call a top-down approach by going to universities, like in the town where you lived, Cape Town. I remember this researcher saying, well, HIV/AIDS is just a virus we still need to learn how to live with, which is true, I think. But whatever we did on that respect, we always kind of run into something that nothing got done. Whereas on a rural, local level, people were very happy to get the remedy. Doctors, nurses, anyone with an open heart and an open mind was willing to use it or to give it to someone. And that's where we saw it blossoming. So, and that's how we started training people. So it's not like being a Dr. Schweitzer and treating as many people as possible. No, we train people how to do this themselves. So at this point, I would estimate we have like a network of some 600 volunteers in different countries that this year, and then we're not talking only about HIV/AIDS, but this year they're likely going to help more than 1 million people for the first time.
Wow. That is absolutely incredible. And when I first heard about this PC remedy, basically it's Peter asking the consciousness of asking consciousness basically to give him the answer to AIDS in this bottle. And I can see how people would be skeptical of that, but you watch that documentary and you see the people themselves on the ground in Africa saying how amazing these remedies are helping them. And to be fair, I mean, I've had Namisha on here talking about the Narayani remedies as well. And Swami Narayani, many of those remedies that she has made, I think they were made pretty much in the same way. I don't think there's too much information on exactly how it was made. People said she would go into a room, they'd be chanting whatever, she'd come out and there's a new remedy. But for example, her removal of entities remedy, I used massively successfully with treating clients who had depression after COVID. And that was also same sort of source type remedy, I imagine, where she would have meditated or asked spirit or consciousness or whatever into this remedy bottle, which is diluted and succussed or used then to help people all around the world. Now, has Peter got two remedies? Is it PC1 and PC2, or is it just the one remedy? Or
there's PC 2000 something. So
what? Really?
I don't know how. It doesn't mean there are 2,000, but I think there are several hundreds at least. And so the people that we train in Africa, if it's lay people, you could say we train them in a limited kit of 6 remedies or something like that. Prevent malaria.
Okay.
That's
the
a key one.
A big one. Oh,
treat
in the
HIV/AIDS,
documentary, the ones that you have with the children.
Trauma, things like that.
I mean, the malaria one was a big one. In the documentary, you see those children, and the school principal says about how the children, something like 30 or 40% of the children are absent every single day because of malaria. But then after this PC remedy, their school attendance is almost 100%, and their school is one of the best performing academically in all of Ethiopia. Or was it Nigeria? Where was that one in
Kenya.
That's okay, somewhere. And I mean, those results don't lie. You've got a school principal there with kids who never come to school. They get given a homeopathic remedy and suddenly all of them come to school because they're not plagued by malaria.
Yeah.
That's
No,
massive.
those results are stunning.
Mm.
And in the beginning, you said something like, too good to be true. And it's one of our main problems, if you want to call it like that. But because the results are just stunning.
Mm.
Each time when I'm in Africa, I'm again amazed by it. And I've been there many times. Like, wow, even this? So yeah, with malaria, you have, in some areas, you have schools that have an absenteeism of 30 up to 40%. It's like, which means a kid is missing out 30 to 40% of his school time. In the remaining time, it's recovering.
Mm.
So still not fully fit, meaning that the school results are not enough to be allowed to go to secondary school.
Mm.
Meaning that at the age of 11, 12 or wherever, they're in the field working, and that will be their life. And we've seen schools where hardly any kid was allowed to go to secondary school. And then at some point, the full class went on to secondary school. That means it's a total game changer for these kids, because now they can pursue a career, because after secondary school, they may want to do something else. The parents are saving money because they don't have to pay for treatment in the hospital all of the time, can invest in whatever they need, or even just in the school fees. And so, yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful game changer. Yeah.
What are some of the other PC remedies? So you said malaria and obviously the HIV/AIDS. What other remedies are there? Basically,
for the most common forms of infections you would have in Africa, gonorrhea is quite common. Syphilis, a bit depending on the country, but like in Uganda, I've seen many cases of that. So hepatitis, a lot of cases. So basically all the infectious diseases, you could say, there are remedies for those. Then at some point when Peter went to Rwanda, and that was still in the years where AIDS was the main thing that he was focused on, he was treating cases and was just seeing that the people were still so traumatized from the genocide that it kind of blocked a proper result from treating HIV/AIDS. And so what he did is he took a group of some 20 people together, and they spent a couple of days together. They shared their symptoms with him. Based on that symptom totality, he received a resonance for that, for the war and genocide in Rwanda, gave it to the people and observed the results. And so those kind of remedies, there are many different remedies now, or resonances as we call them, for different forms of trauma that are being used also. Yeah. And then for some of the chronic diseases, also remedies have been tested out and are basically quite successful. I would say 80% of the conditions that people would come for treatment in Africa, you can do with a disease-specific approach, be it that you need to know what needs to be cured. So if someone has asthma, let's say asthma, ever since the war, you may have to treat for the war trauma. Someone has malaria, on and on and on and on and on. When did it start? It started after I had gonorrhea. You need to treat the gonorrhea. The gonorrhea is gone, but it has kind of had an effect on the immune system, after which the malaria keeps kicking in. So that question is the main thing that people need to know about case taking. What needs to be cured? How did it start? When did it start? Yeah. But once they do that, then many conditions, also chronic diseases, respond quite well to a disease-specific approach. People in Africa are much less individualized like we are in the West. And we may consider individualization as a beautiful thing, and it is in a way an acquirement of the development of our societies. But it's also a disease to consider yourself separate of the other.
Absolutely. And we're seeing the results of that in our Western society these days, where we are also separate. And often geographically, families are scattered all over the world, and we don't have those communities, and we're not raising our children in those communities, and we see the fallout of that and the results of that. I love the way in which you administer the remedies to these communities. Can you maybe tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Well, there are two different ways in which it's being done. So basically, it's either orally or with audio.
Oh,
and
that's how you do the audios.
Yeah. So the oral remedies is we use a simple system. Like there are 3 pharmacies that prepare these PC remedies or source resonances for us as granules. So in Africa, what they do is with 1 granule, they prepare what we call a master bottle. So a dropper bottle with water, alcohol, you bang it a couple of times, ready to be used. And then with 5 drops of that, you can make a dispenser bottle. Now, dropper bottles are not easily to get in Africa, and they're basically expensive. So what we've come to use is the simple water bottles, mineral water bottles that you see all over the world, also in Africa. People usually bring that themselves. We pour out a little bit of the water. We bang the master bottle, put 5 drops in a bottle of water, close it, bang it a couple of times. And then they're being instructed, 5, 5, 5, bang it 5 times. When it's actually 5, 1, 5 with a bottle like that. Bang it 5 times, take a teaspoon, keep it in the mouth for 5 seconds, and that's it. When it's a dropper bottle, it's 5, 5, 5, bang 5 times, take 5 drops, keep in the mouth for 5 seconds. That's a dose.
And was there a reason for the 5?
I don't recall.
I'm just asking because I like that. I think with Ian from the Australian Bushflowers, there's 7 drops and 7 this and 7 that. So there was a reason behind the number 7. So I just wonder if there's something behind the number 5.
It started with 5. It works well.
Okay.
Only when they prepare a master bottle, we tell to bang it 20 times. Why 20? Anyway, it works. So.
Amazing.
And then the dosing is very similar to any other homeopathic remedy. So when it's a chronic condition, you just take it once daily until well. When it's an acute condition, you take it more regularly. The more acute, the more regular you take it. Yeah.
Incredible. And you have to talk to us about the resonance.
Well, we call all of them resonances.
Oh, sorry. I mean the way that you're doing with the frequency over the air. So
with the audio.
The audio, yeah.
Yeah. It started actually with the idea that an avian flu might break out. This might have been 2005, 6, or something like that. There was this concern. Something like that happened in 2014, 18 with the Spanish flu. We always point at someone who is the cause. So it's the Spanish that did it. The Spanish flu, something like that would break out. And Peter realized, yes, he could prepare a remedy for that, but how to get it to everyone? A system based on having to send something by mail, by a pharmacy having to be open, having to be not sick himself, having to be not too scared to open his doors or whatever. That's a limitation. So he thought, well, a new way of delivery nowadays is the internet. Would it work with sound? And so I remember one of the first things that he tried out, he just sent me an image of a burning candle and I could hear a clock ticking. And he just asked me, can you watch this? Listen to this and just give me feedback. I had no idea what it was about. And so what I felt when looking at that, I felt anything that was kind of separating me from the rest, to totality, let's say like that, was dropping away. There were no boundaries. And so then he told me he had prepared something for separation as a test. So to me, that was a first proof that it's possible to imprint in this case, it was a video file, to imprint it with healing information. So next, this was tested out in Africa, like treating someone with malaria with sound instead of oral remedies, someone with AIDS with sound instead of oral remedy. And so there was proof that this was working. And then at some point when Peter went back to Africa himself, he had not been there for quite some years. He went to Kenya and came to the idea of developing what we now call LEAP, Learning Enhancement Africa project or program, where there is a sound file in which are imprinted, we call LEAP 1, LEAP 2, LEAP 3. In LEAP 1, it covers basically all the different infectious diseases that are there that kids can suffer from. LEAP 2 is covering a full range of different forms of trauma they might suffer from. And LEAP 3 is using it in a different way. It is stimulating different learning skills. And basically, that is something that in general with homeopathy can be done. You can use a remedy to get rid of something, whereas getting rid of something basically opening up to something else. But you can also use them directly to open up to something, like we can do in approving. So he prepared an audio file with all of those imprinted, and you can use music for it, or the sound of the waves of an ocean, or anything, chimes, or imprinted in that. So for schools, this has been prepared. So there are now many schools that use this. They play it for the whole school or for the different classes separately. Kids listen to it. And what we see is similarly to when we just prevent malaria, absenteeism going down, stress levels in schools going down. Beautiful feedback we got from several heads of schools, totally unexpectedly, where they told us we no longer use the cane in this school. Because they said, we are relaxed, the children are relaxed, they are no longer afraid to answer a question or to ask a question, so we no longer use the cane. So beautiful.
That's beautiful. And there were some
effective
testimonials in that documentary as well. I think there was one of this boy, I think he had some symptoms of malaria and he went to go lie outside, and the teachers just made him listen to that tape, and he was just lying outside under a tree, and then he was fine again.
Yeah, that's at one school where they used to send on average 6 up to 10 children to the hospital on a daily basis with malaria. And that's how big it is in some places. They started this program and it went back to 0. And if a kid would fall ill a bit, he would sit under a tree, listen a bit, and done. So at some point, the hospital director came to the school and asked, what's going on? We used to have a lot of customers from you, and it's no longer the case. And we had something similar to that years earlier, where it was just only using oral malaria prevention. This was in the Congo, where there was a Red Cross hospital complaining that the number of malaria cases had gone down in their hospital by 95%. And so it was threatening their whole hospital because their income was based on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Harry, how can people become involved with this organization? Where can we donate? Can homeopaths still go over there to volunteer?
We can use all sorts of help, indeed, from financial to personal involvement. And if you consider that we now this year may reach 1 million beings, but there are millions and millions more. And if you just think about HIV/AIDS, it's already 25 million. If you want to prevent malaria for all the kids that are prone to have it, you're talking about hundreds of millions of children. So yes, we do need more funds. Basically, we say 10 cents per child per year. It's not true. It's less than that.
Wow.
Like this year, we will probably spend about 70,000 and reach more than 1 million.
Wow.
But still, if you then want to reach 2 million, you need 200,000. I don't know about the Australian dollar, but let's say euros, 200,000 euros. So funds are needed, even though it's extremely cost effective. Funds are needed. Basically, we're using volunteers in Africa, but they do need a bit of support if they need to travel or buy airtime for their phones and things like that. And we also love to see other organizations or homeopaths who have connections there or would love to start a project or whatever. Yes, we're here to provide you with remedies as many as you like. And the training is simple. It can be taught in just a couple of hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's on our website, a lot of information can be found. And anyone that would love to leave a message there can do so, and we'll be happy to respond.
Incredible. And you've got downloadables there and articles and published books and HRHF.nl.
Amma Resonance Healing Foundation.
Amma Resonance Healing Foundation. Gotcha.
Yeah, the term Amma is perhaps interesting. Why is it called Amma? Basically, Peter had been bringing homeopathy to, I think, over a dozen countries, like Eastern Europe, countries like, I think, Iran or whatever. He was a pioneer of going there, training, treating, setting up a school, and then sending others to continue with that. And so at some point it felt to him like, well, I've done enough. But then somehow this idea came up, like HIV/AIDS in Africa. But he suppressed it, like, why would I do that? And so at some point he had cranial sacral therapy because of, I don't know, he had a headache or whatever. And the one treating him asked him, what are you thinking now? And he said that I need to go to Africa and treat HIV/AIDS. And he traces that thought back to meeting Ammaji from Kerala in India, the hugging Amma, she's also called. So he got a hug from her, and he feels like that somehow awakened this whole idea in him.
Wow.
So when we had to select a name, we decided to use Amma, which is mother also in Hindi. And mother stands for love and care. And basically that's what the foundation is also providing. So yeah.
That's incredible. Harry, it's been so wonderful speaking to you. I didn't even get to chat with you about your books because you've got so many books that you've published as well. And I had some of our listeners get me to ask you questions about that as well. So we're going to have to get you back on the show. But for anybody who wants to get hold of links, they can go to homeolinks.nl and then /books to get some of the published books. And we'll have all of this in the show notes as well. So if anybody wants to purchase any of your books or the homeopathic links or get in touch with Amma Resonance, that will all be in the show notes. Thank you so much for today. It was really beautiful to connect with you. And thank you so much for all the incredible work that you and Peter and all the other volunteers are doing to help those who are desperately in need.
Well, I consider it a gift and an honor to be able to do it. And as far as I can see, none of this was my plan. It just came about like this, And I was open enough to follow whatever was emerging. And so thank you very much for the time and much love to all your listeners also. I understand you're reaching quite a number of colleagues, so very beautiful to say hello to this community of friends and colleagues. Yay. And if any of you is willing to support us or to join us in whatever way, feel very much welcome.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Harry. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, my love. Thank you. Same to you.